Seek the company of such people, for they have realized the divine. They live with the eternal. They have become one with the infinite. Eschew those who are impatient, given to anger, boastful, who cling to pleasure and refuse to renounce their selfish gratifications, and who practice not goodwill and far reaching compassion. For such people do not have wisdom. All their knowledge is vain, and their works and words will perish, for they are grounded on that which passes away. The world, the body, the personality are mirages upon the desert of time, transitory dreams in the dark night of spiritual slumber. And those who have crossed the desert, those who are spiritually awakened, have alone comprehended the universal reality where all appearances are dispersed and dreaming and delusions are destroyed. There is one great law that exacts unconditional obedience, one unifying principle that is the basis of all diversity, one eternal truth wherein all the problems of earth pass away like shadows. To realize this law, this unity, this truth, is to enter into the infinite, is to become one with the eternal. To center one's life in the great law of love is to enter into rest, harmony, and peace. To refrain from all participation in evil and discord, to cease from all resistance to excuse me, to cease from all resistance from evil and from the omission of that which is good, and to fall back upon unswerving obedience to the holy calm within, is to enter into the inmost heart of things, is to attain to a living, conscious experience of that eternal and infinite principle, which must ever remain a hidden mystery to the merely perceptive intellect. Until this principle is realized, the soul is not established in peace, and those who so realize it are truly wise, not wise with the wisdom of the learned, but with the simplicity of the blameless heart. To enter into a realization of the infinite and eternal is to rise superior to time, the world, and the body, which constitutes the kingdom of darkness, and is to become established in immortality, heaven, and the spirit, which make up the empire of light. Entering into the infinite is not merely a theory or sentiment, it is a vital experience that is the result of assiduous practice in inward purification, page 186. When the body is no longer believed to be, even remotely, your real self, when all appetites and desires are thoroughly subdued and purified, when the emotions are rested and calm, and when the oscillation of the intellect ceases and perfect poise is secured, then, not until then, does consciousness become one with the infinite. Not until then is childlike wisdom and profound peace secured. We grow weary and gray over the dark problems of life, and finally pass away and leave them unsolved because we cannot see our way out of the darkness of the personality, being too much engrossed in its limitations. Seeking to save our personal lives, we forfeit the greater impersonal life in truth. Clinging to the perishable, we shut out from the knowledge of the eternal. By the surrender of self, all difficulties are overcome, and there is no error in the universe but the fire of inward sacrifice will burn it up like chaff. No problem, however great, but will disappear like a shadow under the searching light of self-abnegation. Problems exist only in our own self-created illusions, and they vanish away when self is yielded up. Self and error are synonymous. Error is involved in the darkness of unfathomable complexity, but eternal simplicity is the glory of truth. Love of self shuts us out from truth, and seeking our own personal happiness, we lose the deeper, purer, and more abiding bliss. Those who have yielded up that self, that personality, that humankind most loves, and to which they cling with such fierce tenacity, have left behind them all perplexity, and have entered into a simplicity so profoundly simple as to be looked upon by the world, involved as it is in a network of error, as foolishness. Yet such people have realized the highest wisdom, are at rest in the infinite. They accomplish without striving, and all problems melt before them. For they have entered the region of reality. They deal not with changing effects, but with the unchanging principles of things. Having yielded up their lusts, errors, opinions, and prejudices, they have entered into possession of the knowledge of God. Having slain the selfish desire for heaven along with it the ignorant fear of hell, having relinquished even the love of life itself, they have gained supreme bliss and life eternal, the life which bridges life and death and knows its own immortality. Having yielding up all without reservation. They have gained all and rest in peace on the bosom of the infinite. Only those who have become so free from self as to be equally content to be annihilated as to live, or to live as to be annihilated, are fit to enter into the infinite. Only those who, ceasing to trust their perishable self, have learn to trust in boundless measure the great law, the supreme good, are prepared to partake of undying bliss. Page 188. For such people, there is no more regret, or disappointment, or remorse. For where all selfishness has ceased, these sufferings cannot be. And whatever happens to them, they know that it is for their own good, and they are content, being no longer the servant of self, but the servant of the Supreme. They are no longer affected by the changes of earth, and when they hear of wars, rumors of wars, their peace is not disturbed. And when others grow angry and cynical and quarrelsome, they bestow compassion and love. Though appearances may contradict it, they know that the world is progressing, and that through its laughing and its weeping, through its living and its keeping, through its follies and its labors, weaving in and out of sight, to the end from the beginning, through all virtue and all sinning, reeled from God's great spool of progress, runs the golden thread of light. When a fierce storm is raging, none are angered about it, because they know it will quickly pass away. And when the storms of contention are devastating the world, the sage, looking with the eye of truth and pity, knows that it will pass away, and that out of the wreckage of broken hearts which it leaves behind, the immortal temple of wisdom will be built. Sublimely patient, infinitely compassionate, deep, silent, and pure, their very presence is a benediction. When they speak, their listeners ponder their words in their hearts, and by them rise to higher levels of attainment. Such are they who have entered into the infinite, who by the power of utmost sacrifice have solved the sacred mystery of life. Page 191. Saints, sages, and saviors, the law of service. The spirit of love that is manifested as a perfect and rounded life is the crown of being and the supreme end of knowledge upon this earth. Truth is far removed from those whose life is not governed by love. The intolerant and condemnatory, even though they profess the highest religion, have the smallest measure of truth, while those who exercise patience and who listen calmly and dispassionately to all sides, and both arrive themselves and incline others to thoughtful and unbiased conclusions upon all problems and issues, have truth in fullest measure. The final test of wisdom is this: how does a person live? The final test of wisdom is this: how does a person live? Isn't that interesting? That's a great simple question. How does a person live? What do you think? So let's see what the author says. What spirit is manifested? How are trials and temptations dealt with? Many people boast of being in possession of truth, who are continually swayed by grief, disappointment, and passion, and who sink under the first little trial that comes along. Truth is nothing if not unchangeable, and insofar as a person takes a stand upon truth, does that person become steadfast in virtue and rise superior to self-centered passions and emotions and changeable personality. Perishable dogmas are formulated and called truth. Truth cannot be formulated. It is ineffable and ever beyond the reach of intellect. It can be experienced only by practice. It can be manifested only as stainless heart and a perfect life. Who, then, in the midst of the ceaseless pandemonium of schools and creeds and parties, has the truth? Those who live it, those who practice it, those who, having risen above the pandemonium of overcoming their self-centeredness, no longer engage in it, but sit apart, quiet, subdued, calm, and self-possessed, freed from all strife, all bias, all condemnation, and bestow upon all the glad and unselfish love of the divinity within them. Those who are patient, calm, gentle, and forgiving under all circumstances manifest the truth. Truth will never be proved by wordy arguments and learned treaties. For if people do not perceive the truth in infinite patience, undying forgiveness, and all-embracing compassion, no words can ever prove it to them. Page 193. It is an easy matter for the passionate to be calm and patient when they alone or are in the midst of calmness. It is equally easy for the uncharitable to be gentle and kind when they are dealt kindly with. But those who retain their patience and calmness under trial, who remain sublimely meek and gentle under the most trying circumstances. They and they alone are possessed of the spotless truth. And this is so because such lofty virtues belong to the divine and can be manifested only by those who have attained to the highest wisdom, who have relinquished their passionate and self seeking nature, who have realized the supreme and unchangeable law and have brought themselves into harmony with it. Let us, therefore, cease from vain and passionate arguments about truth, and let them think and say and do those things which make for harmony, peace, love, and goodwill. Let them practice heart virtue and search humbly and diligently for the truth that frees the soul from all error and sin, from all that blights the human heart, and that darkens, as with unending night, the pathway of the wandering souls of the earth. There is one great all-embracing law, which is the foundation and cause of the universe, the law of love. It has been called by many names in various countries and various times, but behind all its names, the same unalterable law may be discovered by the eye of truth. Names, religions, personalities pass away, but the law of love remains. To become possessed of knowledge of this law, to enter into conscious harmony with it, is to become immortal, invincible, and indestructible. It is because of the effort of the soul to realize this law that we humans come again and again to live, to suffer, and to die. And when realized, suffering ceases, personality is dispersed, and the fleshly life and death are destroyed, for consciousness becomes one with the eternal. This law is absolutely impersonal, and its highest manifested expression is that of service. When the purified heart has realized truth, it is then called upon to make the last, the greatest, and holiest sacrifice, the sacrifice of the well-earned enjoyment of truth. It is by virtue of this sacrifice that the divinely emancipated soul comes to dwell among humankind, cloth with a body of flesh, content to dwell among the lowliest and least, and to be esteemed the servant of all humankind. That sublime humility which is manifested by the world's saviors is the seal of Godhead, and those who have annihilated the personality and have become living, visible manifestations of the impersonal, eternal, boundless spirit of love are chosen as worthy to receive the unstinted worship of posterity. Only those who succeed in humbling themselves with that divine humility, which is not only the extinction of self, but also the pouring out upon the spirit of unselfish love, are exalted above measure and given spiritual dominion in the heart of humankind. All the great spiritual teachers have denied themselves personal luxuries, comforts, and rewards, have abjured temporal power, and have lived and taught the limitless and impersonal truth. Compare their lives and teachings, and you will find the same simplicity, the same self-sacrifice, the same humility, love, and peace, both lived and preached by them. They taught the same eternal principles, the realization of which destroys all evil. Those who have been hailed and worshipped as the saviors of humankind are manifestations of the great impersonal law, and being such, were free from passion and prejudice, and having no opinions, no special letters of doctrine to preach and defend. They never sought to convert or proselytize, living in the highest goodness, the supreme perfection. Their sole object was to uplift humankind by manifesting that goodness in thought, word, and deed. Page 196. They stand between the personal individuals and the impersonal God and serve as exemplary types for the salvation of self-enslaved humankind. People who are immersed in themselves and who cannot comprehend the goodness that is absolutely impersonal deny divinity to all saviors except their own, and thus introduce impersonal hatred and doctrinal controversy, and while defending their own particular views with passion, look upon each other as being heathens or infidels, and so render null and void, as far as their lives are concerned, the unselfish beauty and holy grandeur of their lives and teachings of their own masters. Truth cannot be limited. It can never be the special prerogative of any person, school, or nation. And when personality steps in, truth is lost. The glory alike of saints, sages, and saviors is this, that they have realized the most profound profound lowliness, the most sublime unselfishness, having given up all, even their own personalities. All their works are holy and enduring, for they are freed from every taint of self. They give, yet never think of receiving. They work without regretting the past or anticipating the future, and never look for reward. When farmers have tilled and dressed the land and put in the seed, they know that they have done all that they can possibly do, and that they now must trust to the elements and wait patiently for the course of time to bring about the harvest, and that no amount of expectancy on their parts will affect the result. Even so, they who have realized truth go forth as sowers of the seeds of goodness, purity, love, and peace, without expectancy and never looking for results, knowing that there is the great overruling law which brings about its own harvest in due time, and which is alike the source of preservation and destruction. Most people do not understand the divine simplicity of a profound, unselfish heart. They look upon their particular Savior as the manifestation of a special miracle, as being something entirely apart and distinct from the nature of things, and as being, in his ethical excellence, eternally unapproachable by the whole of humankind. This attitude of unbelief paralyzes effort and binds the souls of people as with strong ropes to sin and suffering. Jesus grew in wisdom and was perfected by suffering. What Jesus was, he became such. What Buddha was, he became such. And every holy person became such by unremitting perseverance in self-sacrifice. Once recognize this, once realize that by watchful effort and hopeful perseverance, you can rise above your lower nature, and great and glorious will be the vistas of attainment that will open out before you. Buddha vowed that he would not relax his efforts until he arrived at the state of perfection, and he accomplished his purpose. What the saints, sages, and saviors have accomplished, you likewise may accomplish, if you will only tread the way that they trod and pointed out, the way of self-sacrifice, of self-denying service. Truth is very simple. It says, give up self. Come unto me, away from all that defiles, and I will give you rest. All the mountains of commentary that have been piled upon it cannot hide it from the heart that is earnestly seeking for righteousness. It does not require learning. It can be known in spite of learning. Disguised under many forms by erring, self-seeking people, the beautiful simplicity and clear transparency of truth remains unaltered and undimmed, and the unselfish heart enters into and partakes of its shining radiance, not by weaving complex theories, not by building up speculative philosophies is truth realized, but by weaving the web of inward purity, by building up the temple of stainless life is truth realized. Those who enter upon this holy way begin by restraining their passions. This is virtue and is the beginning of saintliness, and saintliness is the beginning of holiness. Entirely worldly people gratify all their desires and practice no more restraint than the law of the land in which they reside demands. Virtuous people restrain their passions. Saints attack the enemy of truth in its stronghold within their own hearts and restrain all selfish and impure thoughts, while the holy ones are those who are free from passion and all impure thought, and to whom goodness and purity have become as natural as scent and color are to the flower. The truly holy are divinely wise. They alone know truth in its fullness and have entered into abiding rest and peace. For them, evil has ceased. It has disappeared in the universal light of the all good. Holiness is the badge of wisdom, said Krishna to the Prince Arjuna. Humbleness, truthfulness, and harmlessness, patience and honor, reverence for the wise, purity, constancy, control of self, contempt of sense delights, self-sacrifice, perception of the certitude of ill, in birth, death, age, disease, suffering, and sin, an ever tranquil heart in fortune's good and fortune's evil, endeavors resolute. Page 200. To reach perception of the utmost soul, and grace to understand what gain it were, so to attain this is true wisdom, prince, and what is otherwise is ignorance. Only the work that is impersonal can live. The works of self are both powerless and perishable. Where duties, howsoever humble, are done without self-interest and with joyful sacrifice, there is true service and enduring work. Where deeds, however brilliant and apparently successful, are done from love of self, there is ignorance of the law of service, and the work perishes. It is given to the world to learn one great and divine lesson, the lesson of absolute unselfishness. The saints, sages, and saviors of all time are they who have submitted themselves to this task and have learned and lived it. All the scriptures of the world are framed to teach this one lesson. All the great teachers reiterate it. It is too simple for the world which, scorning it, stumbles along in the complex ways of selfishness. A pure heart is the end of all religion and the beginning of divinity. To search for this righteousness is to walk the way of truth and peace, and those who enter this way will soon perceive that immortality which is independent of birth and death, and will realize that in the divine economy of the universe, the humblest effort is not lost. The divinity of a Krishna, a Gautama, or a Jesus is the crowning glory of self-abnegation, the end of the soul's pilgrimage in matter immortality, and the world will not have finished its long journey until every soul has become as these and entered into the blissful realization of its own divinity. Page 203. The realization of perfect peace. In the external universe, there is ceaseless turmoil, change, and unrest. At the heart of all things, there is undisturbed repose. In this deep silence dwells the eternal. We humans partake of this duality, and both the surface change and disquietude and the deep-seated eternal abode of peace is contained within us. As there are silent depths in the ocean, which the fiercest storm cannot reach, so there are silent holy depths in the human heart which the storms of sin and sorrow can never disturb. To reach this silence and to live consciously in it is peace. Discord is rife in the outward world, but unspoken harmony holds sway at the heart of the universe. The human soul, torn by discordant passion and grief, reaches blindly toward the harmony of the sinless state. And to reach this state and to live consciously in it is peace. Hatred severs human lives, fosters persecution, and hurls nations into ruthless war. Yet we humans, though we do not understand why, retain some measure of faith in the overshadowing of a perfect love. And to reach this love and to live consciously in it is peace. And this inward peace, this silence, this harmony, this love is the kingdom of heaven, which is so difficult to reach because few are willing to give up themselves and to become as little children. Heaven's gate is very narrow and minute. It cannot be perceived by foolish men blinded by vain illusions of the world. Even the clear-sighted who discern the way and seek to enter find the portal barred and hard to be unlocked. Its massive bolts are pride and passion, avarice and lust. We cry, peace, peace, where there is no peace, but on the contrary, discord, disquietude, and strife. Apart from that wisdom which is inseparable from self-renunciation, there can be no real and abiding peace. The peace that results from social comfort, passing gratification, or worldly victory is transitory in its nature and is burned up in the heat of fiery trial. Only the peace of heaven endures through all trials, and only the selfless heart can know the peace of heaven. Holiness alone is undying peace. Self-control leads to it, and the ever-increasing light of wisdom guides the pilgrim on the way. It is partaken of in a measure as soon as the path of virtue is entered upon, but it is realized in its fullness only when self disappears in the consummation of a stainless life. This peace, to conquer love of self and lust of life, to tear deep-rooted passion from the heart, to still the inward strife. If you would realize the light that never fades, the joy that never ends, and the tranquility that cannot be disturbed, if you would leave behind forever your sins, your sorrows, your anxieties, and perplexities, if you would partake of this salvation, this supremely glorious life, then conquer yourself. Page 206. Bring every thought, every impulse, and every desire into perfect obedience to the divine power resident within you. There is no other way to peace but this, and if you refuse to walk it, your praying and your strict adherence to ritual will be fruitless and unavailing, and neither gods nor angels can help you. Come away for a while from external things, from the pleasures of the senses, from the arguments of the intellect, from the noise and the excitements of the world. and withdraw yourself into the inmost chamber of your heart. And there, free from the sacrilegious intrusion of all selfish desires, you will find a deep silence, a holy calm, a blissful repose. And if you will rest a while in that holy place and meditate there, the faultless eye of truth will open within you, and you will see things as they really are. This holy place within you is your real and eternal self. It is the divine within you, and only when you identify yourself with it can you be said to be clothed in your right mind. It is the abode of peace, the temple of wisdom, the dwelling place of immortality. Apart from this inward resting place, this mount of vision, there can be no true peace, no knowledge of the divine. And if you can remain there for 1 minute, 1 hour, or 1 day, it is possible for you to remain there always. All your sins and sorrows, your fears and anxieties are your own, and you can cling to them or you can give them up. Of your own accord, you can cling to your unrest. Of your own accord, you can come to abiding peace. No one else can give up sin for you. You must give it up yourself. The greatest teacher can do no more than walk the way of truth and point it out to you. You yourself must walk it for yourself. You can obtain freedom and peace alone by your own efforts, by yielding up that which binds the soul and which is destructive of peace. The angels of divine peace and joy are always at hand, and if you do not see them and hear them and dwell with them, it is because you shut yourself out from them and prefer the company of the spirits of evil within you. You are what you will be, what you will to be, what you wish to be, what you prefer to be. You can commence to purify yourself, and by so doing, can arrive at peace, or you can refuse to purify yourself and so remain with suffering. Step aside then, come out of the fret and the fever of life, away from the scorching heat of self, and enter the inward resting place where the cooling airs of peace will calm, renew, and restore you. Come out of the storms of sin and anguish. Why be troubled and tempest tossed when the heaven of peace is so near? Give up all self-seeking. Give up self, and the peace of God will be yours. Subdue the animal within you. Conquer every selfish uprising, every discordant voice. Transmute the base metals of your selfish nature into the unalloyed gold of love, and you shall realize the life of perfect peace. Thus, subduing this conquering, thus transmuting, you will, while living in the flesh, cross the dark waters of immortality and will reach that shore upon which the storms of sorrow never beat, and where sin and suffering and dark uncertainty cannot come. Standing upon that shore, holy, compassionate, awakened, self-possessed, and glad with unending gladness, you will realize that never the Spirit was born, the Spirit will cease to be never. Never was time, it was not. And beginning our dreams. Birthless and deathless and changeless remaineth the Spirit forever. Death hath not touched it at all, dead though the house of it seems. You will then know the meaning of sin, of sorrow, of suffering, and that the end thereof is wisdom. You will know the cause and the issue of existence. And with this realization, you will enter into rest. For this is the bliss of immortality. This is the unchangeable gladness. This is the untrammeled knowledge, undefiled wisdom, and undying love. This and this only is the realization of perfect peace.